So we got the Ben Whittaker Liam Cameron rematch taking place on the 20th of April. They had the announcement press conference yesterday and did a bunch of interviews and whatnot. Now, a lot of people thought that Ben Whittaker wouldn't take this fight. A lot of people were saying he was ducking. There were some issues in negotiations between Whittaker's promoter Ben Shalom and Liam Cameron's promoter Frank Warren. And most people seem to assume that Shalom was the one engaging in shenanigans and, again, didn't really want to put his fighter in there. But when I looked into the situation, I came to the opposite conclusion. Not that Warren didn't want to put Cameron in there, but that he was the one engaging in the shenanigans, trying to make it look a certain way to the public, like Ben Whittaker didn't want it and Shalom didn't want it, when actually they did. And I said this in a previous video long before the fight got signed. And so here you have it. The fight is on. It's all systems go. Be that as it may, I had to raise an eyebrow listening to Ben Whittaker's interviews yesterday, because before the first Cameron fight, his interviews are pretty much standard fare, what you'd expect from a young boxer, going through the motions and what have you. But now he's come back, he's talking about Jesus. Now, no disrespect to any Christians out there, faith helps a lot of people. I've seen it personally. The reason I'm kind of chuckling about it in this case is because, at least from an outsider's perspective, what happened in the first fight wasn't so traumatic, wasn't so bad that it would make you go seek religion and change your whole mindset overnight. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you suffered a tragedy in life, or even if you were in a fight where you got absolutely destroyed and knocked out and so on and so forth, maybe it was your first ever loss. So, for example, Jared Anderson is fighting today. It's his comeback after getting annihilated by Martin Bacoli, although he was competitive to some extent in that fight. He was more competitive against Bacoli than AJ was against Dubois, let's just put it that way. But still, he got dropped a bunch of times and he got knocked out brutally. If he'd come back talking about Jesus, I'd be like, oh, okay. But for Ben Whittaker, who never even suffered a knockdown, to come back talking like this, I don't know. It's just like a bit of a dramatic change after what was, other than the flipping over the top rope incident, a fairly mundane fight. Neither guy really took a lot of punishment. In fact, in a way, I think Whittaker took more punishment after the fight from the fans, from the public, than he took in the ring. Obviously a different kind of punishment, but still. And maybe that contributed to him turning to God, turning to Jesus after that fight. You know, the criticism from the fans and the trolling and all that type of stuff. And if he's sincere about this faith, then does that mean that we're not going to see the showboating anymore? Because that's what helped to sell him. Clips of Ben Whittaker showboating against various opponents. And I think that's part of what allowed him to be comfortable in the ring, was all the showboating. That was part of his routine. And the fact he didn't showboat against Liam Cameron was indicative, I think, of the fact he wasn't comfortable in that fight. So what I'm saying is, if the showboating is now gone, will he be comfortable in the rematch? You see what I'm saying? Because there's a familiarity that comes with the showboating for him. And people tend to feel uncomfortable with things they're not familiar with, scenarios they're not familiar with. But yeah, my overall feeling is that Whittaker changing his whole personality and turning to Jesus and all this type of stuff seems a bit dramatic after the first Liam Cameron fight. But then again, maybe he needed a dramatic change moving forward. And maybe he realized that. We shall see. Whittaker is currently 8-0-1, obviously the one being the technical decision draw with Liam Cameron last time out that ended in the 6th. Liam Cameron, of course, has since signed with Frank Warren. He's 23-6-1, so 31 professional bouts compared to just 9 for Ben Whittaker, so obviously one less the first time they fought, but still, Liam Cameron, vastly more experienced than the paid ranks. You know, I was watching a video the other day, an interview with Dominic Ingle, and he was talking about Ben Whittaker, and he basically said he's never been impressed by him ever since he saw him spar in the gym back in the days with Liam Williams, who's a much smaller fighter than Ben Whittaker, obviously. Well, he is today. I'm not sure how big Ben Whittaker was back then, but he said he was in the gym and he saw Whittaker and Liam Williams spar, and basically Ben Whittaker wanted to quit in that spar, or did quit. I forget exactly how he described it now. But he said ever since that incident, he thought, nah, this kid ain't got it. When the going gets tough, he doesn't get going. He gets gone. Do you know what I mean? Now, normally when a fighter has that in them, it stays with them and it keeps manifesting itself. But there are some cases where a fighter can go from that to being one of the bravest fighters you've ever seen. An example would be Larry Holmes. Larry Holmes, believe it or not, had a reputation as a quitter in the amateurs. Costamato talked about it. He talked about how Larry Holmes was kind of a scared fighter in the amateurs. But over time, maybe it was the sparring with Muhammad Ali, other life experiences, he ended up being one of the bravest pros you've ever seen. So that kind of change kind of happened. And more recently, we've seen Daniel Dubois go from quitting twice, once against Joyce, once against Usyk, to showing a lot of grit and determination and stay in power against the likes of Jarrell Miller and Filip Hrgovic, who are two big alpha male bully types, particularly Miller. It remains to be seen whether Ben Whittaker, if he did quit in that first Liam Cameron fight, and personally, I'm of the suspicion that he did. And if that's correct, we'll see whether that trait, that flaw, shows up again. I call it a flaw. At the end of the day, it's self-preservation, and you could see that as a good thing from a health perspective. But from a boxing perspective, as far as reputation and as far as doing whatever it takes to win a fight, what Eubank Sr. would call the warrior code is perceived as a bad thing if a fighter quits. Anyway, let's wait and see what happens on April 20th. This rematch will be taking place in Birmingham. Ben Whittaker's from West Bromwich, which is obviously very close by. Liam Cameron's from up in Sheffield, so this will be Ben Whittaker in front of his home fans, basically. Top of the bill, you got Lee Cutler against Sam Eggington. You got Fraser Clark taking on Ebenezer Tete. Fraser Clark in a comeback. And Tyler Denny against Elvis Ahorga. That's how I'm going to pronounce it. So a lot of West Midlands fighters on this bill. Anyway, let me know what you guys think about all this in the comments. Give me your thoughts. Don't forget to like this video, share it, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. I'll catch you on the next one. I'm out. Are you surrounded by mindless bots in human form who adhere to the norm and blindly conform? Who swallow all the mainstream BS and actually ridicule you for questioning things? Do you wish you had more free-thinking individuals in your life to network and converse with? Well, look no further. We're right here. Come and join the Brotherhood of Reason on Patreon. You'll gain access to my weekly topical content where we take deep dives on an endless variety of subjects, as well as my vast back catalogue of podcasts, videos, interviews, movie decodings, and my Confessions of a Nightclub Bouncer series. You'll also get to talk and network with myself and hundreds of other people in our members chat. You can enjoy all this via the Patreon app or on desktop and download all my podcasts in high-quality MP3. There's no contract, no commitment. You can cancel at any time, just like Netflix, but it's a hell of a lot cheaper. Just download the app from the Play Store or the App Store, or simply visit patreon.com on a web browser. Then head on over to my page and select the tier called the Brotherhood of Reason. All the links are in the description box below. And just a quick money-saving tip for Apple users. If you purchase your Patreon subscription on the desktop site or on Android, then you'll avoid the ridiculous 30% fee that Apple charges for purchases made on the iOS app. So if you're on iPhone or iPad, save yourself some money by buying your subscription on the actual Patreon website or on Android because it's a lot cheaper. Once you've made that initial purchase, you can then use the Patreon app on your iPhone or iPad thereafter to access and enjoy your content as normal.